The alien court laughed as the mute servant was whipped, until a human janitor grabbed the whip. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Space Station Zenith orbited the gas giant Taurus for like a jewel in the void. Its gleaming spires and vast habitation rings home to thousands of different species from across the galactic conclave. It was here, in this grand melting pot of interstellar diplomacy and trade, that Logan Hayes pushed his cleaning cart down the polished corridors of the diplomatic sector, his worn blue uniform marking him as just another human service worker, invisible to the important aliens who strode past without a glance. Logan had been working on Zenith for 3 years now. The pay was decent enough to send credits back to his family on Earth, and the station offered better opportunities than the mining colonies where most humans ended up. Humanity was still the newest race admitted to the conclave, having achieved faster-than-light travel barely 30 years ago, and humans were largely viewed as primitive curiosities by the more established species. The cleaning cart squeaked as Logan guided it toward the Obsidian Hall, where the Draconis delegation was hosting a formal reception. The Draconis were among the oldest and most powerful species in the conclave, tall, reptilian beings with iridescent scales and elaborate crests that signified their caste and rank. They were known for their rigid social hierarchy and their belief that all other species were inherently inferior. Hayes, crackled Logan's comm unit. It was Supervisor Kell, a Centaurian with a perpetually impatient tone. There's been an incident in the Obsidian Hall. Some delegates spilled their ceremonial wine. Get up there now and clean it before the reception begins. On my way, Logan replied, adjusting his course and picking up his pace. The Obsidian Hall was aptly named, a vast chamber with walls of polished black stone imported from the Draconis homeworld. Logan slipped in through a service entrance, hoping to remain unnoticed as he always did during these high-profile events. The room was already filling with dignitaries from dozens of worlds, their varied physiologies and elaborate attire creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. Logan spotted the spill near one of the enormous viewports that showcased the swirling storms of Taurus for below. As he knelt to clean it, his eyes were drawn to a small figure working nearby, one of the sylph, a species known for their delicate, almost fairy-like appearance and telepathic abilities. This particular sylph was wiping down surfaces with quick, efficient movements, but something seemed off. Logan noticed that the being wore a neural dampener around its neck, a cruel device that blocked telepathic communication, essentially rendering sylphs mute. Slavery was officially forbidden in conclave space, but many species found ways around this prohibition through indentured servitude and other legal fictions. The Draconis were particularly notorious for such practices. Logan kept his head down and finished cleaning the spill, but he couldn't help glancing occasionally at the sylph servant. Their eyes met briefly, and Logan saw something in those luminous orbs, not just fear, but a quiet dignity that refused to be extinguished. The main doors swept open, and the highest-ranking members of the Draconis delegation entered, led by Ambassador Zorax, his elaborate crest extending almost 2 feet above his head, adorned with precious metals and gems that caught the light. Behind him walked his entourage of advisors and guards, their own crests smaller but no less ornate. The assembled dignitaries bowed or performed whatever gesture signified respect in their cultures. Logan used this moment to slip away toward the service corridor, but a commotion stopped him. "You clumsy wretch." The voice belonged to Saris, the ambassador's chief attendant, known for his cruelty. He was berating the sylph servant, who had apparently dropped a tray of delicacies. "You've embarrassed the delegation before our honored guests." The sylph could not speak to defend itself, could not transmit thoughts of apology or explanation due to the dampener. It simply knelt, head bowed, as Saris continued his tirade. Ambassador Zorax stepped forward, his massive form towering over the small sylph. "It seems our servant requires a reminder of proper behavior," he said, his voice a deep rumble that silenced all conversation in the hall. Such disrespect cannot go unpunished. Logan's stomach tightened. He should leave, should mind his own business. Humans had no standing here, no voice in these matters. His job was to clean floors, not cause diplomatic incidents. A guard approached, carrying a ceremonial whip, a symbol of authority in Draconis culture. The assembled aliens formed a circle, many with expressions of anticipation. Public discipline was considered entertainment among certain species. The first lash fell across the sylph's back, causing the delicate being to shudder. No sound could escape. No telepathic cry for mercy could penetrate the dampener. A second lash, and then a third. The Draconis delegates nodded in approval, while members of other species watched with varying degrees of interest or discomfort. Some laughed openly, a harsh, alien sound that echoed through the chamber. Logan felt something building inside him, a pressure behind his ribs, a heat in his throat. He thought of his sister back on Earth, born without the ability to speak, and how fiercely he had protected her from those who would mock or mistreat her for her difference. Before he realized what he was doing, Logan had crossed the circle. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the whip as it was drawn back for another strike. "That's enough," he said, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the human janitor who dared interfere. Ambassador Zorax's crest flared in shock and outrage. "What is the meaning of this?" the ambassador demanded, his scaled face contorting. "Who are you to interrupt a disciplinary action?" Logan held the whip firmly, feeling the eyes of hundreds of aliens upon him. He had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. In that moment, he made a choice. "I'm Logan Hayes," he said clearly. "And this isn't discipline, it's cruelty." The alien court that had laughed moments before now watched in stunned silence as the human janitor faced down one of the most powerful diplomats in the conclave, with nothing but a cleaning cart and a sense of what was right. None of them could have predicted what would happen next, nor how this single act would ripple across the stars, changing the course of interstellar relations forever. The silence in the obsidian hall was absolute, as if the vast chamber itself held its breath. Ambassador Zorax's crest expanded to its full intimidating size, the scales along his neck shifting from green to a threatening crimson. "You dare," he hissed, each word dripping with venom. "You dare touch the ceremonial whip of House Zorax? You, a primitive from a backwater world." Logan didn't release his grip on the whip. His mind raced through possible outcomes, none of them good. Interfering with the cultural practices of a senior conclave race could result in immediate termination at best, criminal charges at worst. But the sight of the sylph's trembling form, the cruel neural dampener around its neck, kept his hand steady. "I understand this is your cultural practice, Ambassador," Logan said, choosing his words carefully. "But this being is injured and cannot even communicate their pain or remorse. Surely justice has been served already." Murmurs rippled through the gathered aliens. A tall, willowy Altarian diplomat stepped slightly forward. "The human's words have some merit, Ambassador. The Conclave Charter does specify limits to corporal punishment of servants, even within cultural contexts." Ambassador Zorax swiveled his massive head toward the Altarian. "You would take the word of a maintenance worker over mine? A being who spends his days wiping excrement from bathroom surfaces?" Laughter erupted again, but it sounded forced, uncertain. Logan felt his cheeks burn, but kept his gaze steady. "That's exactly right, Ambassador," came a new voice. A human woman in the formal blue and gold uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps pushed through the crowd. "He cleans up messes, including, it seems, ethical ones." Logan recognized her immediately. Emily Parker, Earth's junior ambassador to the Conclave. Though she ranked far below Zorax in diplomatic standing, her presence changed the dynamic. "Ambassador Parker," Zorax acknowledged coldly. "Come to defend your janitor?" How typical of humans to lack proper respect for authority and tradition. Emily moved to stand beside Logan, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. "What I see is a dedicated Earth citizen upholding the principles of the conclave that your delegation so proudly helped establish centuries ago." Article 17 of the Sentient Rights Accord specifically prohibits punishment that continues once submission has been established. She gestured toward the sylph, who remained kneeling, silver blood seeping through their thin garment. This being clearly submitted after the first lash. The rest was not discipline, but entertainment, which violates Section 3 of the same article. Logan was impressed. He had no idea the diplomatic corps paid such close attention to the treatment of servants in conclave space. Ambassador Zorax's tail lashed in agitation. You quote our laws to us? The arrogance. His eyes narrowed to slits. This servant is legally bound to House Zorax. Its treatment is an internal matter. Perhaps, Emily conceded. But as this punishment is occurring at a public conclave function, with representatives from 47 worlds present, it becomes a matter of conclave concern. She smiled pleasantly. Unless you'd prefer we discuss the 17 violations of labor regulations our analysts have documented regarding your household staff in just the past month. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. The Draconists were powerful, but they weren't above conclave law, at least in theory. In practice, few were willing to challenge them. Saris, the chief attendant, stepped forward, his hand moving to the ceremonial blade at his waist. This is an outrage. The human should be arrested for assaulting a diplomatic officer. Logan tensed, but Emily remained calm. Mr. Hayes didn't assault anyone. He intervened in what appeared to be an escalating situation. As a station employee, he's obligated to ensure the safety of all beings on Zenith. A clever interpretation, Zorax said, his voice dangerously soft, but ultimately irrelevant. The human interfered with Draconis affairs. I demand compensation. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. The word compensation from a Draconis diplomat usually meant someone would suffer greatly. I believe I can offer appropriate compensation, Emily said, surprising Logan. Earth's delegation has recently acquired a case of Rigelian fire wine. Extremely rare since the supernova. We would be honored to present it to House Zorax as a gesture of cultural respect and to acknowledge this misunderstanding. Rigelian fire wine was indeed rare and valuable, something the status-conscious Draconis would covet. Zorax's expression shifted subtly. A full case, he inquired. 12 bottles, Emily confirmed. The last vintage before the star's destruction. The ambassador's crest relaxed slightly. This could be acceptable. He glanced at the gathered diplomats, clearly calculating how to save face. In recognition of humanity's youth and ignorance of proper protocol, I will show the legendary mercy of the Draconis. He gestured to Saris. Release the servant to the medical bay. It has received sufficient correction for today. Saris looked ready to protest, but obeyed, roughly helping the sylph to its feet. Logan finally released the whip, letting it fall to the ground rather than handing it back. A small act of defiance that didn't go unnoticed. As the sylph was led away, it turned its luminous eyes toward Logan. Though the dampener prevented telepathic communication, a clear message of gratitude was conveyed in that gaze. Mr. Hayes will be disciplined through appropriate channels, Emily added smoothly. Now, shall we return to the celebration of your delegation's anniversary? I believe the Arcturian String Ensemble is about to perform. The tension in the room gradually dispersed as the diplomats turned their attention back to the reception. Music began to play, conversations resumed, but with a different energy. Furtive glances cast toward the human janitor who had dared to challenge a Draconis ambassador. Emily took Logan's arm and guided him toward a quiet corner. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, she said under her breath, her diplomatic smile never faltering. Possibly both. I couldn't just watch, Logan replied. They were torturing that sylph for dropping a tray. I know. Emily's expression softened momentarily. But you've painted a target on your back. The Draconis don't forget insults, and they consider what you did a major loss of face. What happens now? Logan asked, suddenly realizing the potential consequences of his actions. Now, Emily said, you finish your shift like nothing happened. Then report to the Earth Embassy at 0800 tomorrow. We need to talk. She glanced around. And Logan, watch your back. You just made some powerful enemies. As Emily walked away to rejoin the reception, Logan picked up his cleaning supplies, aware of the stares following him. His hands trembled slightly as the adrenaline began to ebb. He had stood up to one of the most feared diplomats in the conclave. He had defended a being who couldn't defend itself. And somehow, he had walked away unscathed, for now. As Logan pushed his cart toward the exit, he caught sight of his reflection in the polished obsidian wall. Just a human janitor in a worn blue uniform. But perhaps, he thought, there was more to being human in this vast galaxy than anyone, including humans themselves, had realized. The night cycle on Zenith Station was artificially maintained, lights dimming across the habitat rings to simulate sunset on 1,000 different worlds. Logan finished his shift in silence, his mind replaying the confrontation in the Obsidian Hall over and over. None of his co-workers mentioned the incident directly, but he noticed their sidelong glances, the way conversations hushed when he entered the maintenance bay. Word spread quickly on a space station. "Hayes," called Supervisor Kell as Logan was clocking out. The Centaurian's 4 eyes blinked in irregular patterns, a sign of agitation in his species. "My office." Now. Logan followed Kell into the small cubicle that served as the maintenance department's administrative center. Charts displaying cleaning schedules and inventory lists covered the walls, along with safety regulations in 17 different languages. "Sit," Kell ordered, his secondary arms twitching. When Logan had complied, the supervisor leaned forward. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I stopped them from whipping a defenseless being," Logan said, too tired to be diplomatic. Kell's breathing sacs inflated in exasperation. "You interfered with a draconian disciplinary ritual. Do you know how many regulations that violates? How many cultural taboos?" "I know it violated my conscience to stand by and watch," Logan replied. "Your conscience," Kell repeated, as if the word tasted strange. "Your human conscience has caused a diplomatic incident that could have repercussions for every maintenance worker on this station. The Draconis delegation is demanding your termination." Logan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Being fired meant losing his work visa. Losing his visa meant deportation back to Earth, where jobs were scarce and his family depended on his salary. Ambassador Parker intervened, he said. "She offered them compensation." "Yes, she did," Kell acknowledged, his tone softening slightly. "Which is the only reason you're still here. But make no mistake, Hayes, you're on thin ice. One more incident, one more violation, and not even Earth's diplomats will be able to save your position." Logan nodded, accepting the rebuke. "I understand. Do you?" Kell's secondary eyes narrowed. "The Draconis have long memories and longer reach. You've made enemies who could crush you without thought." He sighed, a whistling sound through his breathing tubes. "Go home, Hayes. Report back for your regular shift tomorrow, and stay away from the diplomatic sector for a while." Logan stood to leave, but Kell stopped him with a gesture. "One more thing," the Centaurian said, voice lowered. "What you did was reckless and insubordinate." A pause. It was also correct. The Sylph did not deserve such treatment. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of respect in Centaurian culture. Just don't make a habit of being heroic. Maintenance workers aren't paid enough for that. Surprised by this unexpected support, Logan nodded gratefully and left the office. The workers' residential ring was 5 levels down from the diplomatic sector, a cramped but functional area where service staff from dozens of worlds lived in close quarters. Logan's apartment was small even by station standards, a single room with a fold-down bed, minimal cooking facilities, and a tiny bathroom. But the viewport offered a stunning view of Taurus IV's swirling storms, and tonight, Logan stood watching the planet's atmospheric light shows as he tried to process the day's events. His comm unit buzzed with an incoming message. Expecting reprimands from station administration, he was surprised to see dozens of messages from other humans on the station. Word had spread about his confrontation with Ambassador Zorax, and the reactions were overwhelmingly supportive. About time someone stood up to those scaled tyrants. "Proud to share a species with you, Hayes. Drinks on me at Murphy's Pub when you're off shift." Logan smiled despite his exhaustion. Then a final message appeared from an anonymous sender. The one you helped wishes to express gratitude. Garden Dome 7. Midnight. Logan checked the time, 23:17. He had barely 40 minutes. Was this a trap? The Draconis were known for arranging accidents for those who crossed them. But something told him this was genuine. After a quick sonic shower, Logan changed into civilian clothes and made his way to Garden Dome 7, one of the smaller recreational areas on the station. During day cycles, it was a popular spot for picnics and relaxation, but at this hour, it was nearly deserted. The dome's artificial sky displayed a recreation of Earth's night sky, complete with twinkling stars and a holographic moon. Logan followed a winding path through cultivated earth flora, maple trees, rose bushes, and patches of tall grass that swayed in the artificial breeze. Near the center of the dome stood a small gazebo surrounded by luminescent flowers that glowed with soft blue light. As Logan approached, he saw a slender figure waiting inside, not the sylph from the reception, but another being of the same species. This one wore no neural dampener, and as Logan drew closer, he felt a gentle presence touch his mind. "Greetings, Logan Hayes." The sylph communicated directly into his thoughts. "I am Alara. Thank you for coming." "How do you know my name?" Logan asked aloud, still uncomfortable with telepathic communication. "All of Zenith knows your name now," came the reply, tinged with amusement. "The human who defied Ambassador Zorax and lived to tell the tale." Logan sat on a bench opposite the sylph. Up close, their species was even more striking. Skin like polished opal, eyes large and filled with swirling colors that shifted with their emotions. "The servant from the reception," Logan said. "Are they all right?" Alara's eyes darkened slightly. "Talise is recovering in our community's healing chamber. The physical wounds will heal quickly. The humiliation will take longer to fade." "I'm sorry I couldn't do more," Logan said honestly. "You risked much for one you did not know," Alara responded. "Our kind are not accustomed to such actions from other species. Most see us as curiosities at best, tools at worst." "The neural dampener," Logan said. "Is that legal under Conclave law?" Alara's gaze dropped. "There are exceptions. For those bound in service contracts. The Draconis claim our telepathic abilities make them uncomfortable, that dampeners are necessary for their security." A pause. "In truth, they fear what we might learn from their unguarded thoughts, and they enjoy the power of silencing those who communicate through the mind." "That's barbaric," Logan said. "Many practices tolerated in conclave space would seem so to humans," Alara replied. "Your species is young, still holding ideals the older races have abandoned as impractical." Logan leaned forward. "Why did you want to meet me?" Alara's form seemed to shimmer slightly. "To warn you. And to thank you." The telepathic voice grew more urgent. "The Draconis will not forget what you did. Already they speak of making an example of you." Ambassador Parker intervened, Logan said. "Offered them compensation. A temporary solution," Alara countered. "Zorax accepted to save face publicly, but privately, he rages. A human servant humiliated him before the conclave. Such an insult demands response in their culture." Logan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the dome's temperature. "What should I do?" "Be vigilant," Alara advised. "Travel public corridors, stay in groups when possible." The sylph's eyes swirled with concern. "We will watch over you when we can. You have earned the gratitude of the sylph community on Zenith." "I just did what anyone would do," Logan said. Alara's telepathic response carried a sad note. "If that were true, Logan Hayes, beings like Talise would not suffer as they do throughout conclave space." A soft chime echoed through the dome, signaling that midnight had arrived and the garden would soon begin its cleaning cycle. "I must go," Alara said, rising gracefully. "But know this, your actions today have stirred something. Not just among humans, but among all the servitor species of the conclave. Word spreads of the human who dared to challenge the old order." "I'm just a janitor," Logan protested. "Sometimes," Alara replied, "those who clean away the filth are exactly what a society needs." With that cryptic message, the sylph glided away into the darkness of the garden. Logan sat alone in the gazebo for several minutes, processing everything Alara had told him. The idea that the Draconis might seek revenge was unsurprising but terrifying nonetheless. Yet something else the sylph had said bothered him more, the suggestion that his impulsive act of compassion might have larger implications. He was just a janitor, not a diplomat or a revolutionary. He had acted on instinct, defending someone who couldn't defend themselves. Now, it seemed, that simple human reaction was somehow remarkable in the context of interstellar politics. As Logan made his way back to his quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life on Zenith Station had irrevocably changed, and that the ripples from his confrontation with Ambassador Zorax would spread far beyond what he could imagine. The Earth Embassy occupied a modest section of the diplomatic ring, its architecture a blend of classical columns and modern transparency, a physical manifestation of humanity's attempt to balance its heritage with its new place among the stars. Logan arrived precisely at 0800, having slept poorly after his meeting with Alara. The embassy guards, former military personnel in crisp blue uniforms, eyed him with a mixture of curiosity and respect as he presented his ID at the security checkpoint. Logan Hayes, the senior guard said, examining his credentials. "You've been making waves, maintenance man." "Not intentionally," Logan replied. The guard grinned. "Intentional or not, you've got half the humans on this station walking taller today." He handed back the ID. "Ambassador Parker is waiting for you in conference room 3. Down the hall, second door on the right." Logan nodded his thanks and made his way through the embassy. Unlike the opulent chambers of the older species, Earth's diplomatic offices were functional and understated, a reflection of humanity's still limited resources in interstellar affairs. Conference Room 3 was a small space with a round table and a viewport overlooking the station's central hub. Emily Parker stood as he entered, her diplomatic uniform immaculate despite the early hour. "Mr. Hayes," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming." Logan shook her hand, noting the firm grip. "I didn't think I had much choice, Ambassador." "Emily, please," she said, gesturing for him to sit. "And you always have choices, Mr. Hayes. That much you demonstrated quite clearly yesterday." As they sat, Logan noticed they weren't alone. A tall man with close-cropped gray hair stood by the viewport, wearing the uniform of Earth's Diplomatic Security Service. His posture and watchful eyes marked him as military long before his introduction. "This is Commander Ryan Mitchell," Emily said. "He's my head of security and a former Special Forces operator." Mitchell nodded curtly. "Quite a situation you've created, Hayes." "So I keep hearing," Logan replied, an edge of defensiveness creeping into his voice. "What exactly am I doing here? If this is about filing an incident report, I already completed one for Supervisor Kell." Emily exchanged a glance with Mitchell before responding. "This isn't about paperwork. This is about keeping you alive and possibly turning a diplomatic incident into a strategic opportunity." Logan blinked in surprise. "Keeping me alive?" Mitchell stepped forward, activating a small device that emitted a soft hum. "Anti-surveillance field," he explained. "What we're about to discuss doesn't leave this room." Emily leaned forward, her diplomatic polish giving way to intense focus. "The Draconis don't handle humiliation well, Mr. Hayes. Especially not public humiliation inflicted by a species they consider barely more evolved than animals. My sources inform me that while Ambassador Zorax accepted our compensation publicly, privately, he's demanded satisfaction. Alara, a sylph, warned me about this last night," Logan admitted. Mitchell's eyebrows rose. "You've been in contact with the sylph community?" "Just briefly," Logan explained, describing his midnight meeting in Garden Dome 7. "Interesting," Emily murmured. "The sylph rarely involve themselves in the politics of other species. You must have made quite an impression." "I still don't understand what this has to do with strategic opportunity," Logan said. Emily sat back. "Humanity's position in the conclave is precarious at best. We're newcomers with limited technology and resources compared to the elder races. What we do have is a different perspective and different values. What Ambassador Parker is saying, Mitchell interjected, is that your little act of defiance has created ripples. The servitor species, sylphs, centaurians, Procyans, and others, are taking notice. Even some of the middle-tier powers are quietly expressing approval. For grabbing a whip? Logan asked incredulously. For demonstrating that humans won't ignore cruelty, even when it's disguised as cultural tradition, Emily clarified. The Conclave operates on a complex system of power balances, with the elder races, Draconis, Arcturians, and Nexians, maintaining their position partly through intimidation. Your actions, however small they might seem to you, challenge that system. Logan processed this information slowly. So what happens now? Now, Mitchell said grimly, we deal with the fact that the Draconis delegation likely has a bounty on your head. They can't move against you officially without creating a diplomatic crisis, but accidents happen on space stations all the time. Logan felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Are you saying I'm in danger? Significant danger, Emily confirmed. Which is why, effective immediately, you're being reassigned. Reassigned? To where? Logan asked, his mind racing. Being sent back to Earth would be financially devastating for his family. To the embassy, Emily said. Officially, you'll join our maintenance staff. Unofficially, you'll be under Commander Mitchell's protection while we determine our next steps. Logan's relief at not being deported was quickly replaced by confusion. Next steps? What exactly do you expect me to do? Emily and Mitchell exchanged another look before she answered. For now, nothing but your job. Keep your head down, stay within secure areas, and let us handle the diplomatic fallout. She paused. But there may come a time when we ask for your help in leveraging this situation to humanity's advantage. I'm not a diplomat or a spy, Logan protested. I'm just a janitor who couldn't watch someone being tortured. Exactly, Emily said with unexpected intensity. You're a janitor who acted with more moral courage than most career diplomats. That authenticity is valuable, Mr. Hayes. More valuable than you realize. Mitchell deactivated the anti-surveillance device. For now, you'll be assigned quarters here in the embassy. A security team will escort you to your current apartment to collect your belongings. What about my regular job? Logan asked. We'll inform Supervisor Kell that you've been temporarily reassigned due to security concerns, Emily explained. He'll understand. He's been on Zenith long enough to know how these games are played. As if on cue, the door opened, and two security officers entered, a man and a woman in the same blue uniforms as the guards at the entrance. Officer Blake and Officer Turner will escort you to your quarters and help you relocate, Mitchell said. From this point forward, you don't go anywhere alone. Understood. Logan nodded, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. A simple act of compassion had catapulted him into a world of interstellar intrigue he'd never imagined. As he followed the security officers out, Emily called after him. Mr. Hayes? For what it's worth, what you did yesterday embodied the best of what humanity has to offer the Conclave. Remember that. Logan thought about Emily's words as he was led through the embassy corridors. He had never considered himself an exemplar of humanity, just a regular person trying to make a living in a galaxy where humans were still finding their place. Now, it seemed, his instinctive action had unexpectedly defined that place in ways no one could have anticipated. For better or worse, Logan Hayes, human janitor, had become a symbol. The question was, a symbol of what? And at what cost? The next few days passed in a blur of new routines and heightened vigilance. Logan's quarters in the embassy were small but comfortable, certainly an upgrade from his previous apartment. His duties were similar to his old job, maintaining the embassy's environmental systems, cleaning diplomatic offices, and ensuring the facilities remained in pristine condition for Earth's representatives. What was different was the constant awareness of being watched, both by his security detail and, he suspected, by unseen Draconis agents. Commander Mitchell had instituted a strict buddy system. Logan was never alone, even during bathroom breaks. The precautions were both reassuring and unnerving. On his third day at the embassy, Logan was cleaning the floor in the main reception area when a commotion at the entrance caught his attention. A group of aliens entered, not Draconis, but sylphs, their opalescent skin catching the light. Among them, Logan recognized Alara, and beside her, moving with careful steps, was the servant from the Obsidian Hall, Talise. The sylph delegation approached the human receptionist, who quickly contacted Ambassador Parker. Within minutes, Emily emerged from her office, her expression composed but her eyes alert. Emissary Alara, she greeted the lead sylph formally. This is an unexpected honor. How may Earth's embassy assist the sylph collective today? Alara's telepathic voice reached not just Emily, but everyone in the reception area, including Logan. Ambassador Parker, we come on a matter of great importance to both our peoples. May we speak privately? Emily nodded. Of course. Please, follow me to our conference room. She gestured toward the corridor, then noticed Logan. A flicker of recognition passed between them before she led the sylph delegation away. Logan returned to his cleaning, but his mind raced with questions. Why would the sylphs come to the Earth Embassy? And why bring Talise, whose presence could only be seen as a reminder of the incident with Ambassador Zorax? He didn't have to wonder long. Barely 30 minutes later, Officer Blake approached him. Hayes, she said quietly. Ambassador Parker requests your presence in Conference Room 1. Now, Logan set aside his cleaning equipment and followed Blake through the embassy corridors. The security officer remained professionally detached, but Logan noticed her hand never strayed far from her sidearm. Conference Room 1 was the embassy's largest meeting space, reserved for the most important diplomatic functions. When Logan entered, he found Ambassador Parker seated at the head of a long table, with Commander Mitchell standing vigilantly behind her. Across from them sat the sylph delegation, 5 beings in total, including Alara and Talise. Mr. Hayes, Emily said formally. Thank you for joining us. The emissaries from the sylph collective have requested your presence for this discussion. Logan nodded uncertainly as he took the seat indicated by Mitchell. Talise watched him intently, and Logan noticed that the neural dampener was gone from the sylph's neck. Alara's telepathic voice filled the room. Logan Hayes, we meet again under more favorable circumstances. Her mental tone carried warm overtones that hadn't been present in the garden. Talise wishes to speak with you directly. The sylph who had been whipped in the Obsidian Hall leaned forward slightly. Unlike Alara's smooth, practiced telepathic communication, Talise's mental voice was hesitant, the thoughts slightly fragmented. Human Logan, came the halting telepathic greeting. Words, insufficient. Your action, your courage, changed everything. Logan shifted uncomfortably under the intensity of the sylph's gaze. Anyone would have done the same, he said, repeating what he'd told Alara in the garden. A ripple of something like laughter passed through the sylph delegation, a sensation of gentle amusement rather than a sound. Not true, Talise communicated. Many watched. Only you acted. Only humans question what others accept. Emily leaned forward. Emissary Alara has informed me that your intervention has sparked considerable discussion among the servitor species of the Conclave. More than discussion, Alara corrected. A awakening. For generations, my people and others have accepted our place in the hierarchy established by the elder races. We believed resistance was futile, that the natural order of the galaxy placed species like the Draconis at the pinnacle of civilization. And now, Logan asked. Now we question, came the simple response. If a single human maintenance worker can challenge an ambassador of House Zorax over the treatment of a servant, what else might be possible? Commander Mitchell cleared his throat. With respect, emissary, questioning the established order can be dangerous for all involved. Yes, Alara acknowledged. Which brings us to the purpose of our visit. Her telepathic voice took on a more formal quality. The sylph collective wishes to establish a formal alliance with Earth. Emily's diplomatic training couldn't quite hide her shock. An alliance? The collective has maintained strict neutrality in conclave politics for centuries. Circumstances change, Alara replied. The incident in the Obsidian Hall revealed much, not just about humans, but about our own complacency. We have relied on our psychic abilities to navigate the dangers of the conclave, while accepting limitations that no free species should tolerate, such as the neural dampeners, Logan said. Among other indignities, Alara confirmed. The Draconis and other elder races have manipulated conclave law to maintain systems of effective servitude while claiming to honor the prohibition against slavery. They have divided the younger species, encouraging competition rather than cooperation. Emily's expression remained carefully neutral. While Earth sympathizes with your concerns, a formal alliance would significantly alter our standing in the conclave. The elder races might see it as a provocative step. They already see you as provocative, Ambassador, Alara pointed out. Humans arrived in conclave space questioning practices accepted for millennia. Your very presence disturbs the established order. That may be, Mitchell interjected. But there's a difference between disturbing traditions through our existence and actively challenging the power structure. Alara turned her swirling gaze to him. Is there? Ask yourself why the elder races admitted humanity to the conclave at all. Was it truly to welcome you as equals? Or to control you? To gradually reshape your species until you too accept their definition of civilization? Logan looked at Emily and saw from her expression that this question had troubled Earth's diplomats as well. Humanity's admission to the conclave had come with numerous restrictions and guidance protocols ostensibly designed to help humans integrate into interstellar society. The Sylphs are not the only ones who took note of Logan Hayes' actions, Alara continued. The Centaurians, the Procyans, even the Tellurians, all the species relegated to service and support roles, are watching, waiting to see if humans will continue to stand for principles the elder races dismissed as naive millennia ago. Emily folded her hands on the table. What exactly are you proposing, emissary? A mutual defense agreement, Alara replied promptly. Shared technology development, cultural exchange programs, and eventually, a voting bloc within the Conclave Council that could challenge the dominance of the elder races. That's ambitious, Emily said carefully. It is necessary, Alara insisted. Already, the Draconis moved to isolate Earth diplomatically. They portray your species as dangerous, unpredictable, citing the incident with Logan Hayes as evidence. They're using me as propaganda, Logan realized aloud. Yes, Alara confirmed. But their efforts have an unintended effect. Many species find this unpredictability appealing, a sign that perhaps the rigid hierarchy of the conclave is not as immutable as they have been led to believe. Emily glanced at Mitchell, a silent communication passing between them. We would need to consult with Earth's diplomatic council before responding to your proposal. Of course, Alara acknowledged. But while you consider, remember this. The Draconis will not forgive the insult they suffered. They will move against both humanity and those who align with you. We must be prepared. As if summoned by these words, the door to the conference room slid open, and a human diplomatic aide rushed in, her face pale. Ambassador, she said urgently, we've just received word from station security. There's been an incident involving a human maintenance worker in Habitat Ring 4. Logan felt a chill. Who? The aide glanced at him, then back to Emily. Tyler Grant. He was found unconscious, Ambassador. Severe trauma consistent with a Draconis disciplinary whip. The medical team says he'll recover, but the message is clear, Emily finished grimly. She turned to Alara. It seems the Draconis are already moving against humans on the station. They chose another maintenance worker, Mitchell observed. No coincidence there. They are escalating, Alara agreed. Testing your response. If this attack goes unanswered, there will be others. Emily stood, her decision made. I'll contact Earth immediately regarding your proposal, Emissary Alara. In the meantime, I suggest we increase security for both our peoples on Zenith. Agreed, Alara responded. The Sylph turned to Logan. You acted on conscience, Logan Hayes, but you have become a symbol, whether you wished it or not. The question now is, what will humanity do with the moment you have created? As the meeting concluded and the Sylph delegation prepared to depart, Tal'Eth approached Logan, extending a slender hand in the human gesture of farewell. "Thank you." The sylph communicated directly to his mind. "For seeing me as worthy of defense." Logan took the offered hand, struck by how warm the sylph's skin felt, like touching sunlight. "Everyone is worthy of defense," he replied simply. Tal'Eth's eyes swirled with emotion. "That belief, so fundamental to you, so revolutionary to us, may reshape the conclave itself." As the sylphs departed, escorted by security officers, Logan remained in the conference room with Emily and Mitchell. "Well," Emily said, exhaling slowly, "when you grabbed that whip, did you imagine you might be starting a movement that could realign interstellar politics?" "I was just trying to stop someone from being hurt," Logan admitted. Mitchell studied him thoughtfully. "Sometimes the most significant changes begin with the simplest human instincts, Hayes. Compassion, fairness, the unwillingness to watch suffering and do nothing." "What happens now?" Logan asked, echoing his question from days earlier, though now with a deeper understanding of the stakes. "Now," Emily said, her voice taking on a steely quality, "we show the conclave that humanity will not be intimidated, and that we protect our own." She turned to Mitchell. "Commander, I want security doubled for all human personnel on the station. Coordinate with friendly species for additional support." "Already on it," Mitchell confirmed. "And Hayes?" "Mr. Hayes will continue his duties at the embassy," Emily decided, "but perhaps with some additional responsibilities. If he's willing." Logan met her gaze. "What kind of responsibilities?" "You've become a symbol to the servitor species," Emily explained. "A living example that the established order can be challenged. We need to leverage that carefully." "You want to use me as a diplomat?" Logan asked incredulously. Emily smiled. "Not exactly. You're more valuable as what you are, a human who acted on principle rather than protocol. We just need to ensure your story spreads in the right way, to the right audiences." "Propaganda," Logan said flatly. "Inspiration," Emily corrected. "There's a difference." Logan thought about Tyler Grant, attacked simply for being a human maintenance worker. About Tal'Eth and countless others subjected to disciplinary abuse throughout conclave space. About his sister back on Earth, who had faced discrimination all her life for being different. "I'm in," he said finally. "Whatever helps ensure what happened to Tal'Eth doesn't happen to others." Emily nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Good. We'll start tomorrow." She stood. "For now, get some rest. I suspect things will move quickly from here." As Logan left the conference room, escorted by Officer Blake, he reflected on the strange path his life had taken. 3 days ago, he had been just another invisible worker in the vast machinery of Zenith Station. Now, his impulsive act of compassion had somehow placed him at the center of a potential realignment of interstellar power. The simple humanity that had driven him to grab the whip, the inability to watch suffering without acting, was apparently more radical, more revolutionary than he could have possibly imagined in a galaxy where such impulses had been systematically suppressed by the dominant powers. Logan Hayes, human janitor, had inadvertently challenged the foundation of the conclave's hierarchy. And now, it seemed, that challenge would be answered, one way or another. Word of Tyler Grant's attacks spread rapidly through Zenith Station, creating a wave of fear and anger among the human population. The official statement from station security labeled it a random assault by unknown perpetrators, but no one believed that fiction, least of all the humans who worked in maintenance, food service, and other support roles. Logan spent the next week in a flurry of activity that took him far beyond his usual cleaning duties. Under Emily's guidance, he met with representatives from various servitor species, Centaurians, Procyans, Tellurians, and others, sharing his perspective on the incident in the Obsidian Hall. These meetings were kept quiet, conducted in secured rooms within the Earth Embassy or in carefully selected neutral locations throughout the station. Each conversation followed a similar pattern. Initial skepticism that a mere maintenance worker could have defied a Draconis ambassador, followed by growing interest as Logan recounted his spontaneous decision to intervene. culminating in thoughtful discussion about what his actions might mean for interspecies relations within the conclave. Logan discovered a talent for these discussions. His lack of diplomatic training, far from being a handicap, lent authenticity to his words. He spoke simply, honestly, about basic human values, dignity, fairness, the right to be free from cruelty, and found that these concepts resonated deeply with species that had long been treated as lesser beings by the conclave's elder races. "Your directness is your greatest asset," Emily told him after a particularly successful meeting with a group of Tellurian engineers. "You're not speaking diplomatic language, you're speaking universal truths. That's something even translation programs can't distort." Meanwhile, station life continued in its rhythms, but with a new undercurrent of tension. Humans began traveling in groups, watching their backs. The other servitor species, too, seemed more vigilant, more aware of their surroundings. The usual deference shown to Draconis officials became more mechanical, less sincere. 10 days after the incident in the Obsidian Hall, Logan was cleaning the embassy's main conference room when Emily burst in, her usually composed demeanor replaced by barely contained excitement. "It worked," she announced, closing the door behind her. "Earth's diplomatic council has approved preliminary negotiations with the Sylph Collective, and the Centaurians have indicated they wish to join the discussions." Logan set down his cleaning supplies. "That's good news, right?" "Better than good," Emily confirmed. "With the Sylph's telepathic abilities and the Centaurians' technological expertise, we're looking at a substantial power block forming within the conclave." "How have the Draconis responded?" Logan asked. Emily's expression tightened. "About as expected. They've filed formal protests alleging human interference in established cultural hierarchies. They're trying to rally the other elder races against us." "And are they succeeding?" "Partially," Emily admitted. "The Arcturians are firmly in the Draconis camp. They've always been close allies. But the Nexians are more pragmatic. They're watching, waiting to see which way the political winds blow before committing." Logan absorbed this information, still somewhat amazed that his impulsive action had catalyzed such significant diplomatic maneuvering. "There's more," Emily continued. "We've received reports from other stations and settlements throughout Conclave space. Stories about your confrontation with Ambassador Zorax have spread, embellished, of course. In some versions, you physically fought 3 Draconis guards before rescuing the Sylph." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Logan couldn't help but laugh. "I grabbed a whip. That's all. What matters is the symbol, not the details," Emily replied. "You've become something of a folk hero among the servitor species. The human janitor who defied the Draconis. It's a powerful narrative. A dangerous one," came Commander Mitchell's voice as he entered the conference room. His expression was grim. "Ambassador, we have a situation. The Draconis delegation has just filed formal charges against Hayes with the station judiciary. They're demanding he be remanded to their custody for trial under Draconis law." The weight of Mitchell's words hit Logan like a physical blow. "They can do that. They're claiming jurisdiction under Section 47 of the Conclave Charter," Mitchell explained. "Since the incident occurred during an official Draconis diplomatic function, they argue it falls under their legal purview." "That's absurd," Emily protested. "Hayes is an Earth citizen. He falls under our legal protection. The station judiciary has called an emergency hearing," Mitchell continued. "Tomorrow at 0900 in the Hall of Judgment. They've requested Hayes's presence." Emily's mind was clearly racing through options. "We'll fight this, of course. I'll contact our legal team immediately." She turned to Logan. "Don't worry. The judiciary won't simply hand you over to the Draconis." "And if they do?" Logan asked, voicing the fear that had suddenly gripped him. Mitchell's hand moved to rest on his sidearm. "Then we have contingency plans. Earth doesn't abandon its citizens, especially not now, with so much at stake politically." The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparations. Logan met with the embassy's legal counsel, a stern woman named Julia Clark who peppered him with questions about every detail of the incident in the Obsidian Hall. Emily coordinated with Earth's diplomatic headquarters and reached out to potential allies among the Conclave species. Mitchell and his security team ran drills for various scenarios, including what Logan darkly suspected were evacuation plans if things went badly at the hearing. That evening, unable to sleep despite exhaustion, Logan stood at the viewport in his embassy quarters, staring out at the vast expanse of stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, still his home, though it felt increasingly distant as events on Zenith Station pulled him deeper into interstellar politics. His comm unit chimed with an incoming message, not text, but a request for direct communication. The sender code identified it as coming from Alara of the Sylph Collective. When Logan accepted the communication, he felt the now familiar gentle touch of Sylph telepathy in his mind. "Logan Hayes," came Alara's mental voice, clear despite the distance between them. "We have learned of the Draconis legal maneuver. The Collective wishes you to know we stand with you." "Thank you," Logan replied, speaking aloud though he knew Alara could perceive his thoughts directly. "Ambassador Parker believes we can fight this legally." "Perhaps," Alara acknowledged. "But you should understand what truly drives this action. The Draconis seek not justice, but the restoration of the hierarchy you challenged. Your punishment would serve as warning to others who might question their authority." "I'm beginning to understand that," Logan said. "There is something else you should know," Alara continued. "Since your intervention, 17 sylphs have been freed from neural dampeners throughout Conclave space. Servants who found the courage to remove their restraints, inspired by the knowledge that a human janitor stood against cruelty." Logan felt a surge of emotion, pride, humility, and a sense of responsibility he'd never experienced before. "I didn't mean to start a revolution. The greatest changes often begin unintentionally," Alara observed. "A simple act of compassion, genuine and unplanned, can resonate more powerfully than 1,000 calculated political maneuvers." "What happens at tomorrow's hearing?" Logan asked. "That," Alara replied, "depends on many factors. But know this, Logan Hayes, you will not stand alone." With those enigmatic words, the telepathic connection faded, leaving Logan to wonder what Alara meant. As he finally lay down to sleep, his dreams were troubled by images of whips, scales, and the vast, uncaring void of space. The Hall of Judgment occupied a central position on Zenith Station, its architecture designed to inspire awe and respect for Conclave law. Massive columns of polished stone supported a domed ceiling adorned with symbols representing justice from dozens of different cultures. The chamber itself was arranged in concentric circles, the innermost for the accused and their representatives, the next for the judicial panel, and outer rings for witnesses, interested parties, and observers. Logan entered flanked by Emily Parker and Julia Clark, with Commander Mitchell and his security team following close behind. Despite the formal suit provided by the embassy, far more elegant than anything Logan had ever worn, he felt exposed, vulnerable. The eyes of hundreds of beings from across the conclave followed his progress to the center of the hall. Across the circular floor stood the Draconis delegation, Ambassador Zorax at their center, his crest fully extended in a display of dominance. Beside him, Saris watched Logan with undisguised hatred. The judicial panel consisted of 5 beings, each representing a different tier of conclave society. An Arcturian for the elder races, a Nexian for the middle powers, a Tellurian for the technologists, a Procyon for the traders, and a Centaurian for the servitor species. Each wore the formal black robes of conclave justice, their faces carefully neutral as the proceedings began. "This special session of the Zenith Station Judiciary is now in progress," announced the Arcturian judge, his melodious voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We gather to determine jurisdiction in the matter of Ambassador Zorax of House Draconis versus Logan Hayes of Earth." Julia Clark stepped forward. "Honored judges, Earth formally protests these proceedings. The alleged incident occurred during a public reception attended by representatives from 47 worlds. This clearly places it under station jurisdiction, not Draconis law. The Draconis legal representative, a sleek female with silver-edged scales, countered immediately. The reception was hosted by the Draconis delegation to celebrate a Draconis cultural milestone. The human interfered with a cultural disciplinary ritual, violating not just protocol, but sacred tradition. This places the offense squarely under Draconis jurisdiction according to Section 47, Paragraph 3 of the Conclave Charter. For the next hour, legal arguments flew back and forth, dense with citations of precedent and regulation. Logan found it increasingly difficult to follow the technical aspects, though the stakes remained crystal clear. If the Draconis won, he would be subject to their justice system, notorious for its harsh treatment of offenders who challenged authority. As the debate continued, Logan became aware of movement in the observer rings. Sylphs were entering, dozens of them, taking positions throughout the chamber. Then came Centaurians, Tellurians, Proteans, representatives from all the servitor species, filling the Hall of Judgment in numbers Logan had never seen gathered before. Among them, he spotted human faces, maintenance workers, food service staff, medical assistants, the support personnel who kept Zenith Station functioning but rarely participated in conclave proceedings. Tyler Grant was there, his face still showing bruises from his attack, standing proudly among a group of human technicians. The judges noticed this unusual attendance as well. The Centaurian judge leaned forward, studying the gathering crowd with all four eyes. The Arcturian judge appeared distinctly uncomfortable. The court will now hear final arguments before retiring to deliberate, the Nexian judge announced. Draconis representative, you may proceed. The silver-scaled Draconis lawyer rose gracefully. Honored judges, the matter before you is simple. The human Logan Hayes physically interfered with Ambassador Zorax during the performance of a cultural ritual central to Draconis society. Such interference cannot be judged fairly by those who do not understand the depth of this transgression. Only Draconis law can properly address this offense and provide appropriate justice. Julia Clark stood next. Honored judges, Earth maintains that this matter transcends cultural boundaries. Mr. Hayes acted to prevent harm to a sentient being, in accordance with the Sentient Rights Accord, which supersedes cultural ritual. Furthermore, we contend that the Draconis delegation seeks not justice, but revenge for perceived humiliation. This body must not allow conclave law to become a weapon for settling personal grievances. The Nexian judge nodded. Are there any other interested parties who wish to address the court before we deliberate? To everyone's surprise, Alara glided forward from the observer ring. The Sylph Collective requests recognition as an interested party in these proceedings. A murmur swept through the hall. The Sylphs rarely involved themselves in conclave judicial matters. Recognition granted, the Tellurian judge said. You may speak, emissary. Alara's telepathic voice reached not just the judges, but everyone in the chamber, a demonstration of Sylph power rarely witnessed in public settings. Honored judges, the Sylph Collective submits that this case is about more than jurisdiction. It is about the future of the conclave itself. Alara's mental voice was calm, but carried undeniable authority. For too long, the elder races have used cultural tradition to shield practices that violate the spirit of our union. The human Logan Hayes acted not from diplomatic calculation, but from moral instinct, the belief that cruelty is wrong, regardless of who inflicts it or who suffers. The Arcturian judge shifted uncomfortably. Emissary, this court must focus on the legal question of jurisdiction, not philosophical matters. With respect, Judge, Alara continued, the legal question cannot be separated from the philosophical one. If you remand Logan Hayes to Draconis custody, you send a message to all servitor species that the Conclave's commitment to sentient rights ends where cultural tradition begins. Before the judges could respond, another figure moved forward, a Centaurian maintenance supervisor whom Logan recognized immediately. Supervisor Kell requests recognition, the Centaurian announced formally. The judges exchanged glances before the Centaurian judge nodded. Recognition granted, though this is most unusual. Kell's four eyes blinked in sequence before he spoke. Honored judges, I speak not just for myself, but for the Maintenance Guild of Zenith Station, a body comprising workers from 17 different species. This was news to Logan. He had never heard of such a guild. The guild wishes to submit that service workers throughout Conclave space are watching these proceedings with great interest, Kel continued. The treatment of the Sylph servant in the Obsidian Hall was not an isolated incident, but representative of conditions faced by many. Logan Hayes acted, as any moral being should. To punish him for this would be to declare that the Conclave values hierarchy over compassion, power over justice. Ambassador Zorax surged to his feet, his crest flaring crimson with rage. This is outrageous. The court is being manipulated by servitor species with no standing in this matter. The Draconis representative will compose himself, the Nexian judge warned. All recognized parties have the right to speak. As if Kel's intervention had broken a dam, others began coming forward, a Procyon trader, a Tellurian engineer, and finally, Tyler Grant himself, still bearing the marks of his attack. Honored judges, Grant said, his voice steady despite his obvious nervousness. I stand before you as a victim of Draconis justice, attacked for no other reason than sharing a profession with Logan Hayes. If you hand him over to those who would brutalize innocent beings to make a point about hierarchy, you condemn not just one human, but the very principles that should unite us across species. The Hall of Judgment had fallen completely silent, the weight of what was happening evident to all. This was no longer simply about jurisdiction. It had become a referendum on the Conclave's future, on whether the established order would bend or break in the face of changing values. The Nexian judge conferred briefly with his colleagues before addressing the chamber. In light of the unusual nature of these proceedings, the court will extend its deliberation period. We will reconvene tomorrow at this same time. Until then, Logan Hayes remains under the protection of Earth's embassy. As the judges filed out, the hall erupted in conversation. Logan found himself surrounded by Emily, Mitchell, and the legal team, all speaking at once about the unprecedented turn of events. This has moved beyond a simple jurisdiction question, Emily observed, her expression a mix of concern and excitement. The servitor species are using this case as a rallying point. Is that good or bad for me? Logan asked. Both, Mitchell replied grimly. It means you have more allies than we anticipated, but it also raises the stakes. The Draconis can't afford to lose now. It would undermine their authority throughout the Conclave. As they made their way toward the exit, Logan found his path blocked by Ambassador Zorax himself, who had maneuvered to intercept them. The Draconis loomed over Logan, his scaled face unreadable to human eyes. Human, Zorax said, his voice pitched low enough that only those nearby could hear. You have caused remarkable disruption for a being of your limited stature. Know this, whatever these proceedings decide, House Zorax does not forget insults. Your lifespan may be brief by our standards, but it can be made briefer still. Before anyone could respond to this clear threat, a telepathic voice cut through the tension. Alara had approached silently, flanked by several other sylphs. Ambassador Zorax, her mental voice was coolness itself, threatening a being under diplomatic protection violates Section 12 of the Diplomatic Code. Perhaps you wish me to report this to the judges? Zorax's crest flattened slightly, a sign of caution, if not retreat. Merely stating historical fact, emissary. House Zorax has existed for 12 millennia. We have perspective on such matters. And yet, Alara observed, it was shaken by the actions of a single human janitor. Perhaps 12 millennia of unchallenged authority has left House Zorax more fragile than it appears. The Draconis ambassador's eyes narrowed to slits, but he offered no reply, instead turning with deliberate slowness and rejoining his delegation. Once Zorax was out of earshot, Logan turned to Alara. Thank you for your intervention, both now and in the court. No thanks are necessary, she replied. The Sylph Collective has made its choice. We stand with Earth and with all who challenge the old hierarchies. What happens tomorrow? Emily asked. The judges seemed swayed by the presentations, but the legal argument for Draconis jurisdiction is technically sound. Alara's eyes swirled with complex emotions. The judges face a difficult choice. Rule for the Draconis, and they risk unrest among the servitor species. Rule against them, and they challenge centuries of precedent favoring the elder races. So my fate depends on interstellar politics, Logan said, not bothering to hide his bitterness. It always did, Mitchell pointed out. From the moment you grabbed that whip. Alara's telepathic touch carried a sensation of reassurance. Take heart, Logan Hayes. You are not alone in this struggle. What began as one human's compassion has ignited something long dormant in conclave space. The courage to question whether power and age should determine a being's worth. As they left the Hall of Judgment, Logan noticed the diverse crowd of servitor species gathering in the plaza outside. Sylphs, Centaurians, Tellurians, Procyans, humans, and others, mingling freely, speaking in hushed but animated tones. Many nodded respectfully as he passed. Some even reached out to touch his arm or shoulder in their species' gesture of solidarity. This, Logan realized, was what truly frightened the Draconis and the other elder races. Not his individual act of defiance, but the unity it had inspired among those they had long kept divided and subservient. Whether he faced Draconis justice or not, something had fundamentally changed in the conclave. Logan Hayes, human janitor, had grabbed more than a whip in the Obsidian Hall. He had unwittingly grasped a lever that might shift the balance of power among the stars. The night before the final hearing was the longest of Logan's life. Despite the comfortable quarters in the embassy and the security team posted outside his door, sleep eluded him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ambassador Zorax's threatening gaze, heard the crack of the whip against Talus's delicate form. Shortly after midnight, Logan gave up on sleep entirely. He pulled on his clothes and stepped out of his room, nodding to the security officers on duty. I just need to walk, he explained. Clear my head. Officer Blake nodded sympathetically. I'll come with you. Station's quiet this time of night. They wandered through the embassy corridors and into the attached garden, a small replica of Earth's natural environments, with trees, flowers, and even a modest pond. Logan sat on a bench beneath an oak tree, its leaves rustling in the artificial breeze. Nervous about tomorrow? Blake asked, taking a position nearby that allowed her to watch the garden's entrances while still conversing. Wouldn't you be? Logan replied. Best case scenario, I become a permanent political symbol. Worst case, I'm handed over to the Draconis for what they call justice. Blake was silent for a moment. You know, before I joined diplomatic security, I served in Earth's defense forces. Did 3 tours on the frontier before we made contact with the Conclave. Logan looked at her with new interest. What was that like? Scary. Exhilarating. She smiled faintly at the memory. We thought we were alone out there, just us humans facing the void. Then suddenly, bam, we're part of this massive interstellar community with all these ancient species telling us how things work. And now, Logan asked, now I wonder if we've been too eager to adapt to their rules, Blake admitted. We came into space with our own values, our own ideas about right and wrong. Maybe we shouldn't be so quick to abandon them in the name of cultural respect. Logan nodded, thinking about his own impulsive action in the Obsidian Hall. I didn't stop to think about cultural differences when I grabbed that whip. I just saw someone being hurt who couldn't defend themselves. That's the thing about humans, Blake said. For all our flaws, and we have plenty, we still have this stubborn idea that suffering matters, no matter who's doing the suffering. She looked at him directly. That's worth defending, Hayes. Whatever happens tomorrow. Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chime of Logan's comm unit. A message from Emily Parker. My office. Now, important development. Logan and Blake made their way quickly to the ambassador's office. Despite the late hour, the embassy's diplomatic section was alive with activity. Aides rushing between rooms, communication consoles active, security personnel on high alert. Emily Parker sat behind her desk, looking exhausted but animated. Commander Mitchell stood nearby, reviewing data on a tablet. Both looked up as Logan entered. "Sorry to wake you," Emily said, though she could clearly see he hadn't been sleeping. But this couldn't wait. "What's happened?" Logan asked, taking a seat across from her. Emily pushed a data pad across the desk. Statements of support. From 27 species across Conclave space. Most of them servitor races, but a few middle powers as well. All calling for the judiciary to reject draconic jurisdiction in your case. Logan scrolled through the list, recognizing some species names, but not others. "What does this mean for tomorrow?" "It means the case has become even more significant than we anticipated," Emily explained. "This isn't just about you anymore, Logan. It's become a catalyst for long-simmering tensions within the Conclave structure." Mitchell set down his tablet. "The Draconists know it too. Our intelligence indicates they're calling in favors from other elder races, putting pressure on the judges." "Can they do that?" Logan asked. "Influence the judiciary?" Emily's expression was grim. "The Conclave likes to present itself as a model of interstellar justice, but the reality has always been more flexible. The elder races have maintained their position partly through legal systems that appear fair while being subtly weighted in their favor." "So I should prepare for the worst," Logan concluded. "Not necessarily," Emily countered. "The public nature of these proceedings works in our favor. With so many eyes on this case, the judges will be conscious of how their ruling appears." Mitchell nodded agreement. "Plus, we have contingencies in place. Earth won't allow one of its citizens to be sacrificed to appease Draconis pride." "What kind of contingencies?" Logan asked, not sure he wanted to know the details. Emily and Mitchell exchanged glances before she answered. "Let's just say that if the ruling goes against us, you won't be attending any Draconis trials. Beyond that, the less you know, the better." Logan absorbed this information, understanding the implication. If necessary, Earth was prepared to extract him from Zenith Station, potentially violating Conclave law to do so. The diplomatic fallout would be severe. "Is that really worth it?" he asked. "Risking Earth's standing in the Conclave for one maintenance worker?" "It's not just about you," Emily reminded him. "This case has become symbolic of humanity's place in interstellar society. If we abandon you to Draconis justice, we send a message that Earth can be intimidated into sacrificing its principles and its citizens." The next morning, the Hall of Judgment was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from all Conclave species packed the observation rings, an unprecedented attendance for a jurisdictional hearing. When the judges entered, the hall fell silent. The Nexian judge, who appeared to be serving as spokesperson, stepped forward. "After careful deliberation, this panel has reached a unanimous decision," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The jurisdiction in this matter belongs to Zenith Station's General Court, not to Draconis Cultural Authority." Before the Draconis delegation could protest, the judge continued. "Furthermore, upon review of the evidence, this panel finds that Logan Hayes acted to prevent violation of the Sentient Rights Accord. As such, no criminal charges are warranted. This case is dismissed." The hall erupted in sound. Cheers from the servitor species, angry hisses from the Draconis delegation. Ambassador Zorax's crest flared crimson as he stormed toward the exit, his entourage following hastily. In the weeks that followed, the ripples from Logan's actions spread throughout Conclave space. The Zenith Accord was signed by Earth, the Sylph Collective, and 12 other species, establishing new protections for workers regardless of species. Neural dampeners were officially banned in public spaces. Most significantly, a seat on the Conclave Council was created specifically to represent servitor species. 6 months later, Logan stood in Garden Dome 7, watching Thales teach a group of human children about telepathic etiquette. The Sylph, now a cultural ambassador to Earth, had become a close friend. "Still cleaning up messes?" came Emily's voice behind him. Logan turned, smiling. "Different kinds now." He gestured to his new uniform, blue like his old one, but bearing the insignia of the Interspecies Labor Commission he now helped lead. "The Draconis have finally accepted the new reality," Emily informed him. They've withdrawn their protests against the Zenith Accord. And Ambassador Zorax? Recalled to the Draconis homeworld, Emily said with satisfaction. Apparently, being outmaneuvered by a human janitor wasn't good for his career. Logan watched as human and alien children played together under Talus's gentle guidance. You know what's strange? All I did was grab a whip. Everything else, the alliance, the reforms, that was already waiting to happen. People just needed to see it was possible. That's how change works, Emily replied. One person shows courage, then another, then another. Before long, what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. As Logan looked out at the stars beyond the dome, he thought about how a single human instinct, the refusal to watch suffering and do nothing, had helped reshape relations among the stars. Not through grand strategy or military might, but through the simple, stubborn humanity that even the oldest species in the galaxy had somehow forgotten. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.